Hi, my name's Ryan, and today we're going to be covering all the basics of Microsoft Word. Now, this is the latest version of Microsoft Word, 2018, and you can download this from the Microsoft website. They do include a month's free trial if you want to check that out. Otherwise, it's a yearly subscription unless you're a student. I'll leave a link down to that below for anyone who's interested. So I've just opened up Microsoft Word, and this is the page that you'll be presented with. What you can see here is a list of lots of different templates that you may find useful depending on what you're working on. Now, Microsoft Word is a very powerful, feature-rich tool that's used for many personal uses and also in business. You can see just based on some of these templates what it can be used for. You can create CVs, you can create reports, so it's great for students, brochures, anything like that. We're not going to look into all of those today. We're just going to be looking at the basics. So I'm just going to open up a blank document here. So this is the main page, as it were. You can see there are lots of different tabs here, and by default we're going to be starting with the Home tab. Now, the Home tab contains what Microsoft think will be the most useful features to most people. So we're going to cover these, but we're also going to look at some of the other tabs as well. So right away you can see this flashing icon here, and that just means that we can type in this area, like so. Now, obviously for this you're just going to be using your keyboard and all the basic functions of the keyboard. But we are going to cover a few handy shortcuts. So one of those, for example, would be Control-Z. Now this is to undo. So if I just press that now, you can see it will undo what I've just typed. The other way to access this is also this icon here, and you can also redo as well. So you can see I can just go through there and then go back. And that's very useful. You'll probably find yourself using that a lot. So if we just type in a bit more text here, it doesn't really matter. In fact, let's just call this test document. So now we're going to just cover a few of these features up here. So if I just select the text, first of all you can see a little box open in here, and you can see it matches with what appears on this Home tab. So we can change the font of the text here. So this particular font is called Calibri, but you can see there are a bunch of different options that we can choose from here, and if you highlight over them, so I'm not clicking on them, just moving the mouse over them, and you can see what each of them will look like for the text that you've highlighted. You can also change the font size, and again it will give you a preview of that. And equally you can actually click on these here, and all that's going to do is just step up or step down the font size. Another useful thing here, we've got bold, and you can see in brackets there it's telling you that if you press Control B, that will also have the same effect. So you don't always have to move your mouse up here to click on it if you want to save some time. Same goes for italic, and you can also underline. We have a few more here, so this is to strike through the text, but not something a lot of people use. You've got subscript here and superscript here, and here are some options that you can actually change the font, change the colour. So this will actually highlight your text. You can see if I just click that there, it's going to highlight the text and make it yellow. So good if, say, you're going through a document and you just want to highlight some useful points. And this will actually change the colour of the text, so I could make it blue. But obviously it doesn't work very well with the yellow background. So in fact, I'm just going to go up here, and I'm going to undo both of those. So we're back with our normal text. Now, I'm going to get onto some of these in a second, but this is actually going to be a header, if you like, for my document. And you can see here that Microsoft have offered you a few different headings that you may want to use. All these are preset options that you could easily create for any of the options that we've just gone through here. But there's some nice presets here, so we're just going to use title. And you can see that that has just changed what the font is slightly. and the font size. And we're also going to underline it. So we've got some text there, and if I just press enter, it will go back to our default font and size. So it's changed it back to normal here, which is very useful. Now, if we look at some of these options, a very useful one here is the bullet points. So if I just click on that, then we can type in here point 1, point 2, and point 3. You'll notice as well that I didn't put a capital P, but Microsoft did it automatically, and that's one of its useful features. It's very good at highlighting errors that you made. In some instances it will correct them for you. And to just a quick note, to come out of the bullet points, just press enter and then enter again. But if we type in some garbage like that, you'll see it did actually capitalize the G there, but you can see it's highlighted it in red underneath. There's a red underline, and that's to say that is a spelling mistake. So if we right click on that, it would normally offer you some suggestions, but it has no idea what that word could possibly be, and so it hasn't actually suggested anything. As I mentioned earlier, some of those options are available here if you just want to quickly change the style as well. Another thing we can do, so we're actually going to do this with the header, is you've got 4 options here. We're just going to look at these 3 now, really. And this will align the text to the left, to the centre, or to the right. So because that's our header, I'm just going to put that in the centre of the page. There's also an option for numbered lists as opposed to bullet points, but it works very similarly. And that's pretty much all we're going to cover there. One final option actually that you may find useful is if you have a document with a lot, lots of words in it, or lots of different points. You can see here there's a find option, and you can also press Ctrl F. So if I want to find, it's not going to be very useful here. If I just type in test, you can see it will highlight all the words in the document that say test, and you can just scroll through them by pressing these up and down arrows. But of course, there's only one example here, so that's not very relevant. So that's all we're going to cover in the Home tab, and you can see for a lot of people that will be all they need. But now we're going to go to the Insert tab. As you might have guessed, this is where you can insert various things. We're just going to look at a couple of useful options here. The first one of those is a table. So if I just hover here and click on table, you can see that where you selected in the document, it will create a table, and it will automatically fill the page. So we can create let's say a 6x3 table. And what you've also noticed as well is that the tab will change because we've inserted a document, and it's going to essentially give you some options if you want to edit anything about that. I'm not going to go into too much detail on the table here because, like I say, this is a basic video and we're just going to look at a basic table. But you can change some of the styles, you can change the thickness of the border of the tables, you can choose just a couple of individual cells if you want to, say, fill them in with a particular colour. You get the idea, it's all very basic. And if we come out of that table, you can see it just takes us back to the home page. So we've created a table, but of course a lot of people are actually going to want to insert an image. You can select an image from your own computer if you have a file that you want to choose. You can insert shapes and various other things. For now, let's just insert a shape. So we can just draw a rectangle. Again, it's going to take us to a different tab, and what we can do with this tab is change some of the features. So by default it's created this blue fill with a slight border, but again we can change that. We can change the fill here, so we could choose it to be a light orange, for example. So there's a lot we can do there. Now, and again, it will give you similar options as well if you insert one of your own images. But one thing I really want to show you that's very useful is, let's say you don't want the image there, you want it, okay, so that's not going to work with this rectangle. If you were to insert an image from your own computer, what you'd find is it automatically put it exactly where your selection was made. Now, in order to change, what it's going to do is insert it like this, in line with text. So you can see that I can't really move it. I'm trying to move it over here. It's not going to go. It's only going to be able to go where in line with the text, just like any text would. But what if you want it, say, in the top right hand corner? Well, if you click on layout options here, like I say, by default an image will go in line with text. But all you can do is you can either choose to put it in front of text or behind the text. It doesn't really matter. So we're going to put it in front of the text. And you can see now we can maneuver it wherever we want. So perhaps we want to put it up here. I'm actually going to make it a bit smaller. We can change the shape by doing this as well. But if I just go back, if you want to keep the aspect ratio of your image or shape, if you simply hold down Shift while you do this, it will maintain that aspect ratio for you, which can obviously be very useful. Otherwise you may lose clarity in your image. So just be mindful of that. That's a very useful feature to know. So we're just going to leave our shape up there. Now if I go back to the Insert tab, the other thing I just wanted to show you was text. So let's say we want to add a text box, so add some text here. Now you might be thinking, well, I'd have to press space and blah blah blah, but that's not going to give you much accuracy, and it's not really the right way to do things. So what you instead would probably like to do is insert a text box. We're just going to insert a simple text box. We can see there's a lot of different options here from Microsoft, but I'm sure this is the one most people will be interested in. So it's filled it in with some text already. And again, usually, I'm not sure why it's not doing it this time, it will usually align it in with text. But again, if we want to just move it around, we can choose in front of text or behind text, depending on what you want. So if you, for some reason, wanted this behind an image, you choose behind text. We can change the size of it, and it will automatically try and fill it in for you. So if we just drag this down, you can see you can change it like so. And then we can just do what we want here. So we can just put this wherever we like. And that's how you maneuver images and also text. So there's some very basic but very useful insert features offered by Microsoft. You can see there are a lot more options available here. You've got equations and symbols if you want to put them in, perhaps if you're a student. There's lots of different things you can do here, but they're a bit more advanced and a bit more specific. I just wanted to cover the basics that I think most people will be interested in. So we have the Draw tab here. Now I'm not really going to go into this. You can actually use this to draw on the screen. You know, for some people that might be useful. Perhaps if you've got a touchscreen computer, it could be a good option. But it's not something I'm going to cover here. Design, as I mentioned earlier. So design is really mostly used if you are selecting a specific thing. Now you can see that there's another design tab here, and this will be relevant to the actual item that you've selected. So if I click this here, because I've selected the table, it's going to let me edit the table. This design tab is similar, but it's really just useful for titles, so changing the design of the actual document itself. Some people may find this useful. It's not one that is going to be used a whole lot, so I'm not going to cover that one again too much here, but it's just useful to know. So layout offers a few useful options here. One of the things you can do is change the orientation of your page. So we can just go ahead and make that landscape. You'll see you might need to maneuver things around a bit to make it look better, but this will print landscape on the page. We're just going to change that back to portrait, and it will return things to as they were. Another useful one is actually the spacing. So you can see If we got a couple of bits of text here, you can see it's put an automatic bit of space in there, and it will continue to do so, and it will be exactly the same space. But what if you want the space to be smaller? Well, we can go up here and we can just click the down button there, or we can click up and we can make it more spaced. Now, this is obviously useful for some people. Perhaps you're a student and you want to double space. Perhaps you just don't like the spacing as it is. Perhaps you're writing a CV and you want to reduce the space a lot more so you can fit more on the page. There are lots of reasons why you might want to use this. So it's just a useful thing to know. But that's pretty much all we're going to cover on this page, because again, I don't think many people are going to use the other options too often. Similarly with references, this is obviously very much for academics and students. You can use this for bibliographies, inserting notes, things like that. Again, it's quite specific to a lot of people, so I'm not going to go into that in too much detail here. Mailings, again, not really going to cover much. Review. So review can be fairly useful. Let's say you've written a large document and you want to just check things over. You can click on spelling and grammar, and it will find any mistakes that you've made. So rather than actually going through and just looking for anything that's underlined in red, you can actually just click this spelling and grammar feature here, and it will highlight all the errors that it's found. And you can say, oh, actually no, that is a word, just ignore it in all cases or just this once. And of course you can just correct it if it is an actual mistake. The other useful thing, so I'm just going to click X out of the editor there, is the word count. Now you can either click on that icon there to get the word count, or you can see down on the bottom left of the page, it will actually show you how many words you've got in your document. So all the words in my document, including the words here, is 44. And if you select a certain number of words, so I've selected 32 words here, it will also show you 32 of 44 words in the whole document. So that's very useful. But if you want to click on that, or again, you can click here, it does exactly the same thing. It will just give you some information about your document. So I have one page with 44 words on it, this many characters with and without spaces, this many paragraphs and that many lines. And you can choose whether to include text boxes or not. So if I don't include the text box here, then it will show me how many words I've got just in the rest of the document. So that's a very useful feature. But again, you don't actually need to go to review and word count. This option will always be available here, and you can just click on that. And lastly, we have view. Not really going to show you much here. One option actually I should have covered earlier is the zoom. So you may or may not want to actually zoom in on your document or zoom out if it's too big. But you can see in the bottom right, you've actually got a bar here. So if I just click minus here, I can zoom out a bit, and I can zoom back in. So now I'm back at 100%. So again, you don't need to go to view and zoom to do that. So they are the main options. You've also got a help tab as well, but I doubt many people will use that. So those are the main options to create a document, and I think I've covered most of the basics here. All that's left to do now is to actually save the document. So if we go to File, you can see some info here about the document that you've just made, or I can click Save As. Now there are different options here. If you're connected to OneDrive, you can save it in OneDrive. You can add a different place to this list, a place that you might want to save documents regularly, or you can just use this PC and choose something like your desktop or documents folder to save the file there, and you'll be given several different options to save it if you like, but obviously the main one will just be a Microsoft Word document. The other thing I wanted to mention is actually this export option here, which allows you to actually save the document as a PDF. This can be very useful for people who want a document that's less easy to edit, and there's various reasons why you might want a PDF. So that's useful to know as well. Alternatively, you can just click on print as well if you want to print the document out. Select a printer, select how many pages, the orientation of the page, and so on. Okay, well, I really appreciate you watching this video. I hope you found it useful. I know I haven't covered a lot of what Microsoft Word has to offer, but it's a very feature-rich document. So it's a very feature-rich application. So if you do want me to go into more detail on other features that it has to offer, please leave a comment down below, leave a like on the video, and also make sure you hit that subscribe button. Stay tuned for more videos. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.